Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. We're here for the next round of this championship. We'll go through a bunch of bits and bobs. I think in a few short moments we've got to get on with what is effectively a serious contention for what is going to be a really important sprint and really important race at the end of it. We are currently going to go straight to the front. We are just approaching the end of the one-shot qualifying. Francesco Largo getting pole for the sprint race. We should be in for an absolute cracker, that is for certain, because this is the British Grand Prix. Thank you very much for being alongside us after what has been a break week. Of course, the F1 Esports Championship concluding last week out. Francesco Largo from Tech, from Cameron, Moustache and Ryder Dahl in your top 5 for this race. It is myself, Jota, alongside your not usual commentator for tonight, Joseph, taking the week off. Kotskis alongside us for this one. Should be an absolute blinder at our home Grand Prix.
Absolutely. I mean, it's swapping a Joseph for a Joseph, so it's not too much difference. But yeah, Silverstone, it offers a lot of overtaking opportunities and well, a lot of opportunities to fight. And we know these drivers. We know that they love a brawl.
Absolutely. So taking a look then, there's your rest of your grid down at the back. GT10 Stefano at the foot of the grid. We should be in for an absolute cracker. Gives us a very quick opportunity between the sessions then for a quick race recap of last time out. We were at Hungary a couple of weeks ago, and in the end, the well, unfortunate situation, shall we say, for TRT. They nearly had the record in their grasp. They would have had the 20th to first challenge under their belt. A penalty was thrown on the head of the TRT man, and unfortunately that ends up meaning that out of nowhere GT10 have got their first race win of the season. Can you believe it? Top step of the podium alongside Azim and TTM covers. TTM, very nice figure back on the podium. And then Rappi in P4 for FRT, Ryan for TF10 in 5th place. Then you've got Fede Oscar, Gatkowski, Zane and Joe Murphy rounding out the top 10. And what has been another bad showing from the team of BRT. Again, it means that the standings falling further and further out of favour for the Bunga Racing team. Team Shazoo now on 697 points going into this race. Of course, we do have the sprint race ahead of us alongside Bunga Racing team and ET8 Esports. We'll take a look at the drivers in just a few short moments. We do have to go straight over because the sprint race is imminent. Kotskis, thank you very much again for being alongside us for this one. It should be a cracker of a British Grand Prix and a sprint race as well. Early favourites suggesting Team Shazoo have found a little bit of form.
Yeah, and I mean, they sort of need to find that form with all the teams bearing them down. Of course, Bunga Racing team just behind them, ET8 as well, within 45 points. So the pressure is really on. And with a sprint race weekend, it means that they have more opportunities to fight forward and they have more opportunities to gain those points. And, well, a sprint race, usually the main race is chaos here, but a sprint race as well offering up even more opportunity for chaos, a shorter race, less points on offer, and I reckon they're really going to be pushing each other hammer and tongs all the way from lights to flag.
Yeah, it should be an absolute cracker nonetheless, to say the least as well. Obviously, the drivers get themselves ready for what will be a very short sprint race, I believe, of only 8 laps for this particular race. Of course, there are points on offer for the sprint race. Every point will count in this championship with how closely contested it is. And, well, what has been going to be an absolute blinder with the counting down the lights, 3, 4 and 5 lights. We're in a sprint in Britain. DRS enabled straight away on lap 2 of 9, surprisingly. I think we've got a little bit of a bug happening on the screen, but the race will continue. FRT Dan leading the way from Francesco Largo somehow. I think there's a timing tower glitch at the moment, so we'll just investigate that one. Nonetheless, Francesco Largo leading the way from Tech, and then Moustache from Ryder Dahl and Cameron Dowds are your top 5. Gatkowski from Max von der Gies. There's Aversio's Dom. Making his debut here tonight with Allison and Andreas. We've got people going off of the track, and it looks like one of the BRTs. It's Justin off of the track. It looks like he's got major damage potentially on that front wing. A lot of debris on the circuit.
Yeah, and it's absolute carnage from about P13 downwards as they're all just trying to scrap over that track position. Of course, they want those top 10 positions as it stands on this first lap with not many opportunities to get forward with only 9 laps. It's a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting, going to agonise down in P15. Not what he would have wanted to see at this point in the race, as he's under pressure from Stefano behind, and his teammate Dan only a couple of positions down, not P1 as the timing stand would suggest, but agonise side by side with Stefano as they head through Maggots and Beckett's, and on the exit His exit is just compromised, and he does now drop down to what will be right at the rear of the field. But Francesco Largo leading this one away as we head on to the end of lap number 1.
Here comes Radadal down the inside line, then going into the Vale chicane. Not able to get any kind of traction up there, though, up on the curbs, and Mustache still holding on. I tell you what, Francesco Largo and Tech are holding their own as the timing tower has returned at the moment. Tech Brutal has been really doing a good job to try and keep Francesco Largo within touching distance, but a little bit of a push beginning now for the CPI man. TTM's Mustache holding off ETH's Radadal. Pretty important for ETH and BRT that they have a good sprint race. They need to carry that momentum forward on what is now a really unfortunate set of circumstances for Justin, who just seems to can't find his feet at the moment for BRT. He's just lacking a little bit of confidence, as is Mustache, going into the Luffield corner. Nonetheless, that position taken, and now Radadal ET8 into third.
Yeah, not a bad start for him, and he's going to now try to fight forward. Of course, those two at the top having a monopoly over the top two positions at the moment. Can Radadal make his way through? That will be something that will be decided over the next few laps, but he's got about 6 tenths to make up, which in this sort of format is huge, as Brawl will be on, or Brawl even, will be right on the back of Francesco Largo as they head out of Maggott and Beckett and down to the second DRS straight on this lap, and he's going to open it up now, trying to close in on Largo. Can he make this position stick, or is he not quite going to go for the move? He's not quite going to go for the move, and the gap now has increased between Brule and Radadal up to about 7 tenths. So really not what the Aston Martin would have wanted to see at the moment, and well, he's going to try to close that gap back down once again. But we head on to lap number 3. Largo with the fastest lap of the race, and well, the top two trying to break away, actually being stolen away by TF10 Dirk, who's in the mid pack, but demonstrating that the driver right up the top does actually have the pace to be there.
Just keeping an eye at the moment as regards to the tyres. There's been plenty of position changes across the field. You got a glimpse of that a little bit earlier, but in terms of tyres, 9-lap sprint race rather. Everyone can go to the end of this race on a set of softs or a set of mediums, but the Team Shazoo boys as well as Fedi for TRT believe that the soft tyres are not the tyre to be on. I tell you what, we know that this is a very high-deg circuit, isn't it, Silverstone? So in this situation, is Cameron Dowd just holding his own, biding his time, knowing that towards the end of this sprint race, he's going to be significantly faster than the 4 cars in front of him, I wonder?
I think so, because those tyres will not last very long. However, it's looking a bit cloudy. I'm not sure whether there will be any rain towards the end of the race, but it does look to be at least on the horizon. And well, if that is the case, then everybody's going to be slipping and sliding through the final few laps, and I'm not sure whether it does actually matter what tyre compound they are on. Tech Brawl maybe shaping up a move into P1, just tucking back in. Fede getting past Quart into P11. It's actually or P12 even. It's actually 3 wide behind them as the drivers head through now into the final couple of corners. They're sorting themselves up pretty okay, the EVE man up to 13th, but as it stands at the moment, EVE Dom on his debut, P7.
Yeah, nowhere near the points at the moment are of the winners of the race 2 weeks ago. For GT10 down in 15th and 16th respectively. Keep an eye out then remaining on Francesco Largo and Tech Rule are just sort of holding their own at the moment between CPI and BRT. BRT really need this at the moment as well. We've got people in the chat, none other than Crispy OG in the chat saying, what is Shazoo playing at? So it is a great question here. It's an easy soft tyre to the end is what he believes. I think a lot of people saying it's definitely an easy medium, but very much open for discussion out there, folks. What you think is Justin with the continued wing damage falling even lower, now down as low as P19. Remember, ETA Agonised has got that 10-second penalty that he managed to get as a result of overtaking under yellow flags, I believe it was. 4 of 9, so just a little bit over half of this race done. In fact, it's exactly half of this race done now. 4.5 laps of 9 has gone, and immediately out the blocks, we start to see people are settling now into this little sprint race. We'll take a very quick look at the changes in this particular race from the one-shot qualifying. Fede up 7 positions, Stefano's up 5, make it 8 now actually, as the medium tyres are starting to really make their own, as I'm just keeping an eye on Cameron Dowd, who's starting to put a little bit of pressure on Mustache at the moment, who's actually ERS none. Cameron Dowd's down 2 positions. He did start on the medium. He's going to want to make those positions back. Will he make more, though, is the question. He is getting closer, and these medium tyres starting to just work a little bit in the favour of the Shizou man. Is the Flying Scotsman going to go for the move? He's certainly just going to put it alongside the Red Bull. Red Bull gives him space, to be fair, does Moustache, as he's going to get the switch back, will Cameron Dowd, so he'll get the traction out of the corner, and he's certainly going to be looking for the overtake down here. DRS available for both of the drivers, but the medium tyres starting to really switch on as the Flying Scotsman flies his way up to P4.
Yeah, that was a pretty assertive move that Cameron Dowd's got done there, and now he tries to make his way up onto the podium positions, and he's got Ryderdal's company just up ahead. Ryderdal, who hasn't quite been able to get back into the battle with Francesco Largo and Peckerel up ahead, but can Cameron Dowd do something else as he's on those mediums? He's on the alternate tyre in terms of this race. There's only 3 drivers, 2 of which being the Shizou drivers on the mediums, and Shizou Tom being down there in P16 now as he gets past Dirt. It is not quite what he would have wanted to. It is not quite where he would have wanted to be, especially as he went onto that alternate strategy. By the way, big gaps opening up between the top 9 and then everybody else, as Allison in P9 is 3.8 seconds ahead of Andrea in P10. So big gaps there, but that doesn't stop the fighting, as the top 9 are going to fight away, the bottom 11 are going to fight away, and we head on to lap number 6 now, and well, it's almost all yet to be decided.
Yeah, back on board with Francesco Largos are just looking behind him, putting a little bit of a gap on tech on this one, which is allowing Ryderdal to get into the clutches of the BRT man. Is he going to look for the move going into farm? He's not on this occasion, as well through village. He will want to try and keep it nice and cool, nice and easy, with the gap of around 2.5 tenths to Cameron Dowd's. Ryderdal really could do with not making a mistake, because those medium tyres really starting to switch on now in the last 2.5 laps of this sprint race as well. The sprint races just go flying, don't they? 100 kilometres of racing, of course, in this particular event, as Fede has overtaken his teammate. Don't think that'll be too much of a scrap, to be honest with you. He's now up to P10 on those medium tyres. Cameron Dowd's really making his efforts known as well, up to P4, and starting to really bridge the gap between him and Moustache, as now is up to 0.6 of a second. We'll still have DRS though going down the hanger straight. Keep an eye out then on Ryderdal. Is he going to get anywhere closer towards these two? He's not, if anything, actually. The formulation of tech's second sector has been pretty solid, to be fair, as the kick Sauber, as the green machine is looking for the overtake, and it's going to be 3 wide going into Stowe, but on this occasion not going to work at all for either of the 3 drivers, and in the end they stay in formation, can you believe? So this is really good for Cameron Dowd at the moment. If they keep tripping over each other, then the Flying Scotsman will be happy to swallow up any positions that are lost. On this occasion though, not putting too much pressure on the Aston Martin, 7 of 9.
Yeah, Cameron Dowd's not quite getting enough of a run out of the corners to get past Ryderdal, and he's going to try and go once again, as he will have the more grip at this point in the session, as that's contact behind, and Dom has been half spun, and now he drops down to the rear of this pack, as there was contact there between him and well, somebody else just taking an inside line that just sort of half span him round, and now he does drop down to P number 9, looking further up though. And well, it's Cameron Dowd who's going to try to fight as Dirt comes into the pit once again. He's come in twice, and this second time was for the DNF, so he is the first driver and probably the only driver out of this sprint race. And well, the top 9 are going to get really feisty over the last couple of laps. We saw it go a little bit over the top with Dom having a little bit of a half spin, and it could also go a little bit wrong, as we've only got 2 laps left to go, as we will cross the timing board in a couple of corners time, and well, it will all light up, as this is the time now where the drivers really want to fight for those positions. It really matters where they're going to stand in these final 2 laps in this sprint session.
7 and 9, then are going to be 8 of 9 when they come across the line in just a few short moments. Cameron Dowd really just sort of biding his time at the moment, not really putting too much pressure on any of the 3 drivers in front, knowing he's going to have the grip versus the rest of them. But to be perfectly honest with you, Francesco and Tech especially have been fairly decent now as these tyres start to become quite thin. Ryderdal is starting to put a little bit of pressure though on the bruised line that is the kick Sauber, but no move as of yet from the Aston Martin. So the Alpine of Cameron Dowd will just continue to watch and bide his time this particular race. Is he going to get closer? He is getting into the toe with the DRS available. Is it going to be a move on this occasion? He is certainly looking for it, and in fact the open opportunity is there, and he's just taken the opportunity, but he'll have to go around the outside of Luffield. Will he have the grip versus the Aston Martin? He certainly will! That's the move up to P3. Radadol losing the rear, you could see just to the right of your screen as he was going for it, and the Flying Scotsman's now up to third, and that is a prime position. Double DRS, we'll have the DRS and a double toe going down the main straight on the final lap here. Cameron Dowd's now a dark horse in this race.
Yeah, in with a good opportunity here as Radadol just didn't quite have the grip, as the medium's now definitely the better tyre, and he will have DRS once again as they head down the second DRS straight on this lap. Is he going to go for a move, or is Tech going to try and cover him off? It looks as though Tech is going to try and cover him off, but Cameron around the outside, can he hold on to this move? It's going to be much more difficult around the outside, but he's going to do it. Is he going to make it 3 wide into the final corner? Not quite. And Tech trying to fight forward with Francesco to try and ward off Cameron behind. It hasn't worked. And he's been sent into sort of a little wobble, and he drops down now to P4. Manages to stay in this battle, but it's a top 3 battle on this last lap of the Grand Prix. You would imagine Largo, Dowds and Ryderdale who'll be taking it, scrapping it right to the very end.
Here we go then, so this is where it's going to get really spicy indeed. You'd have to say now the tyre degradation is going to fall out of favour of those on the softs. Gatkowski gets an overtake on Max von der Geest up for P6 for CPI. It's going to be a good sprint race actually for the CPI team. It might be first place, but it's likely going to be second here, unless Ryderdal is trying to welcome himself back into this party. This is going to be throwing a spanner in the works of the Alpine Renault, who really doesn't want to be battling with other soft tyre runners other than the person in front of him. Francesco Largo has been leading this race from start to finish after gathering pole position for the sprint race, of course, in that one-shot qualifying earlier on. Here they come then through into Maggots and Beckett's. This is where we should see the significant difference in the quality of the tyre as Cameron Dowds chucks the car through the right-hander, through the left-hander, then the right-hander. The quick switch in position, you can see the understeer and the car is washing off as multiple people have had exactly the same issue, but this is surely going to be done and dusted as the Team Shazoo man goes around the outside of the McLaren of Francesco Largo, and what is going to be bitterly disappointing stuff, he goes off of the circuit. Does the CPI man, he tried to hold on from start to finish. BRT trying to get in there as well. He's going to get the switch back, but he's not going to have any kind of traction round there. The Flying Scotsman wins the sprint race in Britain from Francesco Largo, Ryderdal, Tech and Mustache. Gatkowski finishing in P6 is still a decent effort from CPI. Max von der Geest in 7 from Aversio. Dom in the top 8. Allison and Fede rounding out the top 10. What a great race that was towards the front for Cameron Dowds. Team Shazoo nailed on, used the medium tyre and just managed the race. Brilliant.
Yeah, well done from Cameron Dowds there. Spare thought though for Francesco Largo, who was up there the entire race until right at the very end, which is when Cameron decided to make that move, and the Shazoo man will take the maximum points out of the sprint race and will head into the race now with full of confidence. But he won't have that strategy advantage anymore, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to make his way forward, because now he's used to being on the better Compana tyre, and now he's got to get used to the fact that everybody else will be in a similar scenario to him. But not a bad start pace-wise, and well, he was able to stay with them on the medium compound tyre in the first instance. So maybe I could be completely wrong. Maybe he could fight his way up the top just with ease, but we'll have to wait and see. The field will be so close together, the pace will be so evenly matched, and well, we're going to do now. It's about 24 laps around Silverstone?
Yeah, it's a bit of a longer this one. Excuse me. Excuse me, as my throat has just started to clog up here. This is a critical one now as we go into the grid, because we are going to be heading straight into qualifying in just a few short moments. We've got to change some settings on the game. Obviously, we've got to turn off the collisions, so we make sure that no one has any kind of tow in this one. But there is your lineup for this one. So TTM in the Red Bull, Allison and Mustache, PLX and Dom, as we've seen earlier on in the Mercedes. Dom actually had a good sprint race, so this could be a good opportunity for EVE. TRT's Andrea and Fede not able to really get a good shift in, but nonetheless a decent performance for the Ferraris to try and at least get within touching distance of potentially some points for this race. Francesco and Gatkowski for CPI, very good sprint race from the pair of them, so they should be ones to watch for the main race. And then this is the critical one. Championship contenders ET8 are both serving a qualifying ban tonight due to, I think it's the penalty points that they've managed to accrue. So Rydal and Sergio will be starting in 19th and 20th respectively. Cameron Dowds and Tom tonight for Team Shazoo will be smiling from ear to ear from that news. And then you've got Dan and Agonised for FRT, Dirk and Max for TF10. Your other championship hopefuls, BRT, Justin and Tech tonight. Justin not having a good sprint race, but Tech having a decent one. So what can they learn and what can they pass down to Justin in order to have a good race tonight? And then, of course, you've got the race winners from the last race in Hungary a couple of weeks ago, GT10, Stefano and Quartz at the back in the Haas. We'll take a very quick look again at the standings then. So there is your standings as a result of the races in Hungary. Team Shazoo 697 from Bunga Racing Team 661, ETH 652 are considered your three teams looking for the championship. CPI starting to get into a little bit of a no man's land on 580 in fourth. Then talk about no man's land here with TTM, but they've closed down the gap to CPI for fifth place. Fourth and fifth are in their own little scrap. Then you've got a massive gap for TF10, 363 in sixth. There's Tatum on 319, FRT 226. Grand Track 10 getting into ninth place on 181. Project Aversio, the project team from Malta, at the foot of the table on 116. Of course, Novus only taking part in 3 races this season. A quick reminder, of course, we are in for an absolute blinder for the rest of this season. Of course, we are here on April 1st in Britain. We've just had the sprint race with Austria following up, then Italy, and then Belgium. 4-week sprint all the way to the end. Kotskis, we are in for a championship hunt now.
We certainly are, and we're reaching the pointy end of the season with all these drivers that will be just scrapping it out for their team. Shazoo in a good place at the moment. They were the championship leads by 36 points. That will have increased as a result of that victory from Cameron Dowds at the top. So it should be very good. I think depending on how ET8 do this one, and depending on where they end up sorting themselves out, it could be that it's going to be between Bunga and Shazoo as the gaps will increase after this round. But we'll have to wait and see. Do ET8 get dragged into the battle for third with CPI and TTM? We shall have to wait and see. Of course, the news about the F125 move for Shazoo and CPI should throw something else into the mix and create what could be a super team. But we're not quite there yet, and the teams first and fourth in the standings are combining at the end of this Legacy Division season. But we will have to wait and see how that one pans out. And well, Shazoo, it will be a great way for them to finish off their campaign and finish off their existence with a victory.
Yeah, and of course, we spoke to Joseph about this one as well a couple of weeks ago. We asked, obviously, what people were feeling about with the obviously the upcoming merger between the Cedar Phoenix Igniters and Team Shazoo to become the Shazoo Phoenix Igniters coming for F125. The teams obviously have got their own individual qualities between themselves, but what will be a really big move for CPI to branch into what is going to be what is a championship winning team rather, and obviously a championship competing team rather. And of course, it's an opportunity for Team Shazoo to obviously gather more of their roster. Of course, at one point, Team Shazoo looking really like they were suffering from the amount of drivers moving from console over to PC, but this is a great acquisition for them as well, so it makes sense for the pair to consider the move. But this is obviously a critical thing for the likes of Shazoo and CPI, because of course Bunga Racing Team and ET8 have got their own little competition brewing as well, and ET8 especially really starting to find their footing in this particular championship. Elsewhere, they performed super well, ET8. I know that they won the Ultimate Masters this season, so they are a team that can really compete. It's just this one seems to have been their Achilles heel. Bunga Racing Team have always been really considered throughout these seasons to be a bit more of a midfielder, but I did say that they would be a team to be towards the front, and it doesn't shock me that this season they've really found their footing. But we still have another 4 races to go, including this one, Kotskis. Early indications suggesting we should be in for an absolute blinder, to be perfectly honest with you, because of course, these teams, the top 3 especially, are still fighting out for a championship. Team Shazoo have found their footing a little bit, but once again, one of their failures, or failure is a strong word, one of their Achilles heels has probably been, Team Shazoo have ended up sort of having one driver towards the front and one driver stuck in the midfield. The sprint race emphasised that, because both started on the medium tyre. Tom couldn't make any, massive headway. Meanwhile, Cameron Dowds won the race. So is that potentially a bit of a precedent setter for the Scottish outfit? Are we going to see more of the same from them, or are they going to sort that out before the race?
Potentially, I think it could be the case because, of course, when you do have somebody like Cameron Dowds, of course, who is hard to match. Of course, he won the console tier 1 title, so he has literally not been matched before. But yeah, it could be potentially difficult to match him. But if you look at it as well, there are a lot of teams in the same scenario. So, for example, BRT, Justin was down the bottom. Tech Brawl was right up the very top. So it's not a unique situation for Shazoo, where they do have one driver at the top and one driver at the bottom. So or in the mid pack at least. So it's not an unsurprising scenario to find themselves in. It's not a particularly unique situation for them. But yeah, it's certainly not ideal, and they're going to try and now get Tom up the field as quickly as they possibly can. But of course, not quite made it to the race yet, and the race could throw everything up. We know what Legacy Division can be like. It can be unpredictable. It can be crazy. And you can have things happen like GT10 winning last week that you don't quite expect.
Yeah, quite. It's been an absolute cracker of a season. As I said, we've got 4 rounds to go. We'll be taking a very brief break as the drivers are getting themselves ready for what will be, I'm sure, a very good qualifying session ahead of us. Short qualifying before we get into the main race, so stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few short moments for more continued coverage of this WOR Legacy Division British Grand Prix. Hello there, folks. Welcome back then to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. We should be in for an absolute cracker of a race ahead of us here, as well as my computer is going absolutely nuts. There we go. We should be in for an absolute cracker. Now, we're going to be in for just the one qualifying session in this one. As said, in the interim, we do have a couple of qualifying bans, and unfortunately, it's falling out of favour for the championship hopefuls, that is ET8, both serving a qualifying ban in Ryder Dahl and Sergio tonight. The rest of the field, though, free reign to serve their qualifying speeds and try and maximise their potential. It is myself, Jota, alongside Kotskis tonight for what will be, I'm sure, an absolute belter of a British Grand Prix. Kotskis, I know we've got 18 minutes to go here. That sprint race immediately suggests to me that the likes of BRT, Shazoo and probably CPI are going to be up there, but are there any early favourites or any early contenders do you suspect for pole?
I mean, of course, you can't really look past Cameron Dowds, but we haven't seen his soft pace yet. We've seen everybody else's, and we saw specifically Francesco Largo, who led that race all the way up to the dying moments when Cameron made his way through. So keep an eye on him as as the CPI driver will try to take that pole position away. But of course, they will all try and do it. And we haven't seen one lap pace so far around Britain this weekend. We've only seen some do the sprint races, of course. We saw, I believe it was Dirk that ended up taking the fastest lap. But race pace, very different to qualifying pace. and we'll see how they do. I'm expecting these first few laps to sort of be similar to the sprint races. They tried to get themselves bedded in, but well, I think some may also be trying to do 4 full runs, but we'll see about that one, as both the ET8 drivers, you can see those that have retired from the session already, they'll be starting from the back of this field, and well, Sergio and Rudfeld, they've got a big task ahead of them.
I think one thing's for certain is that the drivers are probably going to be looking at their last set of soft tyres, unless a late safety car comes out. The expectation is we are going to be seeing medium and hards for the race, but you never know. People might decide to put the soft in somewhere in their strategy. We're on board with Tech. He's the first person to leave the pit lane and get out there. No surprises, BRT tend to be the first team to just get straight out there and get on with it. Going through then into farm and then into village, the Kicksauber looking to try and at least maintain some kind of performance. I think from the sprint race, he was looking very sharp indeed on low fuels and soft tyres. It's just unfortunate the tyres did fall off in the end, and Cameron Dowds, of course, on that medium tyre, so much faster with that extra mechanical grip that was available on the beneath the Alpine Renault. Going through Love Field then, and then heading through into Cops. It's going to be fairly critical that Tech actually puts a decent performance in and tries to set a bit of an early precedent setter to suggest that they are definitely going to be at the front of this one, but not pushing too hard, I don't think, going through Cops. As it goes through Maggots and Beckett's then, want to keep it nice and cool, nice and easy. Don't put too much pressure on the car, as the car, it's just gripping really nicely, to be fair. Not that much in the way of understeer as it goes down then the main straight, where I think it's going to be, a fairly decent lap by the looks of things. Maybe one more of a conservative lap on this for the Kicksauber that just wants to set at least a precedent setter, even if it is a little bit more on the conservative side. And then into the final chicane, where of course a lot of people make a few mistakes in the racing trim, but not in the qualifying trim at all from Tech as it comes across the line right now. Early precedent set over 1:25.4. Max von der Geest is over a second slower versus Tech. Shazoo's Tom coming in there as well. He's just a 10th slower, rather a second slower. Am I on about 2/10 slower rather than Max von der Geest? 25.5 for Tom puts him a 10th down rather on that occasion. Cameron Dow's actually slower than Tom on that particular occasion. His teammate, despite him being faster in the sprint race, 25.7 for him. Going to show it immediately out the blocks that Tech has definitely got the pace. My question, where's Justin? Justin invalidated his lap time. He's really out of form at the moment individually, is Justin, so this could be proved fairly critical for BRT. Andrea and Fede 15th and 16th place as they're on the foot of those that have set a qualifying lap time. Dirk and Justin invalidating their laps though. Kotskis, Justin is out of form at the moment individually, and it's starting to really show and really put a bit of pressure at the moment on the green machines.
Yeah, and it's not what, at the moment, it's not ideal, that situation that they find themselves in, and well, we're going to see how they end up doing throughout this session, but of course he's going to have help from his teammate currently sitting on that pole position, and well, he's currently sitting on that pole position by over a tenth of a second with Tom in P2 with a 25.5 and a high 25.5 as well. Francesco going in P3 is expected to be right up there. Both the TTM drivers who haven't shown particularly outstanding pace this weekend. Of course, Mustache was in the battle at the top, and Allison was clinging onto the end of it. They're both sitting in 5th and 6th as it stands. But there are a few drivers right up there that we didn't quite expect to be up there. I mean, we talked between the sprint and qualifying about Shazoo Tom and how he needed to get the pace up. I think he was listening.
They certainly found the pace up there, and that's obviously going to offer an opportunity for Team Shazoo to potentially get up there, and if both of them get towards the front, of course they can manage the pace. But Cameron Dowds down in 7th is not ideal, to put it bluntly, as well. And once again, is that showing a little bit of pressure that comes from the two Shazoo drivers. Driver A, driver B always seems to be let's be candid, it's not just a few hundredths of a second. 3/10 is a massive margin in Formula 1 terms, as Tech has already got a fresh set of soft tyres on. He's very keen to get straight out there. Gatkowski and Agonise similarly, as the Red Bulls getting caught up a little bit actually between the pair of them, tripping over their shoelaces. Only 7,000ths of a second showing from TTM. We haven't talked about them in this particular qualifying session. Really consistent running between the 5th and the 6th place man Mustache and Allison. Exactly the performance that TTM need if they want to try and put the pressure on CPI.
It definitely is, and well, they've got the pace this season. They just need to extract it as much as they can. And of course, they've got CPI and then maybe even ET8. They can apply the pressure on the team in third place. Of course, they'll be starting from 19th and 20th. But yeah, CPI and TTM locked in battle there for P4, and they're going to try and now fight away, probably with each other, but CPI trying to go for that top, I would imagine, with Francesco Largo at least, as Hegetkowski not quite having that pace at the moment, sitting in P10. The field, though, or the field spread at least between about 3rd and about 13th is pretty close, 3/10 separating 10 drivers. So they're all so close together as we expect in Legacy Division. There's a couple off of the group, but it is going to be them closing back up, as you'd imagine, towards the end of this session, as TF10 Dirk and BRT Justin head through on their laps now. Dirk is in that final sector. A 102.4 is what he's done in those first two, and the V-carb now coming around the final couple of corners. He's going to try and get up higher up the field. He's got a high bar set by his teammate Max van der Geest, who's got a 25.6 and currently sits in 4th place. Dirk coming around the final couple of corners. Where is he going to go as he comes across the line? It's going to be a 25.6, and it's going to be ahead of his teammate by just under 0.04 of a second.
Yeah, not too bad from the second of the two Spanish outfits that we've got in this championship. Of course, ET8 being the first in terms of the standings. Anyway, TF10 Dirk, though, showing that he's willing to put the pressure on, but of course the track is continuing to evolve. That is technically their second run. Here comes Justin, a little bit of a wobble out there, and it's only P13 for the man that is out of form at the moment. This is the last thing that BRT really need in their championship hunt. It's for one driver to be doing what is effectively known as the Shazoo at this point, with one down at the bottom and one down at the at the top. Is the last thing that they really need to be doing at the moment. Tech on board with him, then he's looking to try and improve on his original lap of a 25.4, and if you're wondering, how is that screen at the bottom completely black? How come I can't see all of the things on the screen? Well, that's a great question, because I don't know either. I don't know how my game has done it, but it's falling well within my philosophy of I don't show telemetry. I don't want to give any of the teams any opportunity to see where people's ERS are and then plan around it. So falls very nicely with that particular philosophy, to be honest with you. Tech going down the main straight, just overtaking the the Racing Bull RBPT Honda, as he's just very close to the edges there of Stowe. Then going into the Vale chicane, want to keep it nice and tidy. Will the kick Sauber as he looks to try and improve on his original lap of a 25.4. Will he do so? He certainly will. He gets another 25.4, finds a few thousandths of a second on his original lap. So that again showing there's a little bit of track evolution, a little bit more time to find out there, but I think Tech will think there's probably even more time to find when he puts his third set of soft tyres on. We're keeping an eye out on at the moment as well, and I appreciate there's probably other people in front, but I am interested in Allison at the moment, because TTM again, only 7 thousandths of a second separating the pair of these drivers, kept a nice little consistent measure going, as here comes the Red Bull as he comes across the line. Will he be able to get above his teammate? Well and truly well. He goes up to P2, does Allison, which is a great effort from the TTM man. Cameron Dowd's going up to P3, exactly the performance that Shazoo needed on this occasion now, with only 100th of a second separating the pair of them. Will Mustache get anywhere near Allison, though? Ideally, it'll be nice to be within another 7 thousandths again. We'll see if TTM actually managed to do that. It'll be 1:25.512 for that one, but that'll be very unlikely. Comes across the line. Oh, he's even closer! 2 thousandths of a second between Allison and Mustache. 25.507. Great effort from TTM and from Team Shazoo. Both of their drivers within 100th of a second of each other. Exactly the performance you need from driver A and driver B. Brilliant.
Yeah, and we talk about drivers being separated, and at the moment you can barely separate the two TTM drivers on their laps, and testament to them for being able to hold it that close together. As Quartz now for GT10 is going to be the next driver who will come up to the line, and he's heading through the second sector, not on a lap, but they're now heading through to the end of their second runs, and the time's now getting even closer, with Allison going onto the front row, and Mustache only 2 thousandths behind, and Dowds and Tom there as well. So if we're talking about battles, the on-track battle tonight could be between TTM and Shazoo. Both teams so close together on the circuit at the moment in terms of times, and Tom going a tenth slower on that previous lap, and I'm sure he's going to try and go again. As Francesco Largo, I said that he was probably one of the favourites for pole position. He's going to come up to the line within the next couple of moments. And where is the McLaren going to be able to put himself? It's going to be up into P4. So that's another driver into the 25-5 gang. But it's Francesco Largo, who's only 400 off Allison, but a whole 10th off of that pole position.
Yes, that's a critical thing, though. He split the drivers in TTM and Cameron Dowds with Tom and Team Shazoo. So Francesco Largo putting his CPI McLaren Mercedes slap bang in the middle of those two teams. And well done as well to TF10. They've both got drivers within 400 of the second of each other, and they both share the fourth row of the grid as it stands so far. Quartz, a good effort from GT10 in ninth as well, so keep an eye out on him because he could be a driver to really formulate potentially a plan on. Here comes Dirk, he's just started his lap actually. Going through turn 1 into turn 2 now is the TF10 team as he's just trying to chuck the car to the right, and a bit of a lock-up, misses his apex, but should be relatively okay if he can at least hit the apex. Here he doesn't, he's actually struggling a little bit with a bit of understeer in the first sector. Might cost him a tenth or two. We'll see where his first sector split is going to be though. That line is actually going through, I believe now, which it is. It's actually found just a little bit over half a tenth in that first sector, but I think there's a bit more time to find for the Racing Bull RPPT Honda. Keep an eye out then as he goes through into Cops, where I see a few people in the old F1 games have really struggled with this corner, but this particular one has been very pointy on that front end, so that corner no longer becoming a bit of an issue. As he then goes through Maggots and into Beckett's, keep it as close as he can to the white line without going over. A little bit more of a conservative run from the Racing Bull. In fact, losing his apex again actually, going through Beckett's, and he's still found though nearly a tenth.
Yes, nearly a tenth is what he's been able to find, and well, there's a lot of times that are coming in now as we're heading towards the last couple of runs in this qualifying session. TF10 Dirk is going to come around the final couple of corners. He's improving in the first two sectors, and he's going to go up onto the front row in the third, 1,000th ahead of Allison. So we said it couldn't get any closer, and Dirk trying to get himself involved in the TTM battle with well, the two Red Bulls being joined and overtaken by the sister team. But the drivers now that are on their laps, namely, well, those that are just coming in, are slightly out of sync with the rest, with everybody else in those pits getting ready for those final runs. And it's going to be those final runs that are so crucial, because there is a lot of time to find on this circuit. And at the moment, Tech Brawl is demonstrating that he's up by 800 to the second on his already pole lap. And we're going to see where the Pixable, the green machine of the BRT team, is going to go as he heads now through the second sector, trying to give it everything that he's got as he heads up to the second sector. Split time is a minor improvement. He's lost a little bit of time in that second sector, and now he's going to try and gain it all back in the third. He'd still be on pole position. He'd now be on pole position by over a tenth per second if he comes up to the line with a similar improvement. But no, he dives into the pits. It doesn't feel like that improvement is good enough. And, well, we're going to have to see the Kicksauber go once again. 3 minutes 20 left in the session. 1 run to go.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me on that one, actually. Had a bucket load of understeer going out of Beckett. So, unfortunately, I think that's the reason why, though he would have improved on his lap time, he thinks it's potentially more than just a low 25.4. There could be a 25.3 on the cards. Allison is up by 17 thousandths of a second in the first sector. His first sector is usually pretty sharp, actually, so it's usually where he loses his time is in the second. So we'll see how Allison does then, as he is really pushing the car to its absolute limit. Here comes a split right now, and he is up by over a tenth of a second. This is exactly what Allison has needed, because this is now going to actually put him within the ballpark of Tech's original pole position lap time, and that might put pressure on the man that's been leading from the front in this qualifying session throughout the entirety of this qualifying. Remember, this is not Q1, this is one qualifying only. Little bit of a wobble coming out the end as the tyres are screaming at him. Here he comes across the line. He does beat Tech by a very small margin of only 5 thousandths of a second. Does Allison and TTM are now at the front of this field, and that is now immediately putting pressure on the BRT man. Outlaps rather, and laps just starting to kick off. We're not long left in this session, and immediately BRT are now no longer the standout favourites for this one.
Yeah, Allison finding time on that run, and TF10 Dirk retiring. He will not be improving on his 25.504 as We've got drivers now on their outlaps, getting ready to go and push for one last go. One more stab at trying to take that pole position now away from Allison, who's gone 5 thousandths quicker than Tech Brule, or Tech Brule even, at the top of the standings. I'll get it right once, I promise. Well, everybody is on an outlap, apart from Allison and Dirk, and of course the two ET8 drivers who have not taken a singular part in this qualifying session. It is now where the times matter. It is now when they're going to try and push, and Quartz is going to come into the pits. He will not be improving on that 25.5. And, well, we've got our final runs beginning. That is one of the CPI guys coming across the line. There's going to be another one in a couple of moments' time.
There should be no more improvements for Allison. He should be coming straight into the pit lane, and that will be that. So it's only 5 thousandths that Tech has got to find. I say it's only 5 thousandths with the close margins as this qualifying and this sprint. And this, actually, to be fair, one-shot qualifying was also as well. Every thousandth of a second is going to count, so 5 thousandths could be quite a significant margin to find if everything is so closely compacted. He's on his outlap at the moment, though, is Tech. We have got more people in front of him that are starting laps, though. The first people will actually be the Ferraris of Andrea and Fede, and then I do believe we've actually got Cameron Dowd, is it? No, apologies, it's not. It looks like to me it might be the Williams, and it is. The FRT boys have agonised, and Dan are also on laps as well, looking to try and improve. Then it is going to be the Kick Saubers. Tech is the second driver. The first driver out there at the moment is Justin. He is well out of form and well out of sync at the moment with that 25.9. We do know that he's not considered a lead driver within BRT, but there's definitely better than the 17th place start as the checkered flag is now waving. Quartz couldn't make it to the line. So bad timing from GT10, especially with how tightly compacted it is. 6th place would be a great start for Grand Track 10, but he may end up costing him now as we've got a slow McLaren who's run out of fuel coming across the line. Gatkowski. CPI have only got one driver starting in 14th place, would you believe? Justin trying to improve. This is going to be critical here as it goes through Maggots and Beckett's then. Will he be able to stay within track limits to start as Max von der Gies has gone third fastest with a 5.01 of his own. 6 thousandths of a second between third and fifth at the moment. Brilliant stuff. Is he improving? Justin is improving by just under a tenth and a half. This could definitely put him in the ballpark of a top 10, but he's getting well out of position for BRT. He needs to find an absolute blinder of a second lap as it looks like other people. Fede coming across the line in 10th. Agonize has gone to 12th, but Dan's beaten him to 11th. Is this going to be a good lap from Justin? Can he at least get into the top 5? Here he comes. Oh, it's only a 14th place start for Justin as well. It's absolutely devastating for BRT. Here comes PLX. EVE are on pole as it stands with a 25.4 dead. Tech can't improve. He stays there. Oh, Shazoo Tom coming across the line. 25.323. Absolute blinder in the end. And Shazoo are on pole position, but on the front row at Project Aversio. Brilliant.
Yeah, EVE, probably one of the biggest underdogs in this series, and it's always great when they do well. He did take that pole position momentarily, but it was snatched away by the man that we sort of said he needs to find some pace in this race, Shazoo Tom, who went from a dismal sprint session up to pole position for the full race itself. And what a race we've got on our hands. Shazoo Tom taking pole position ahead of PLX, who will start in second. Then it's Allison, whose lap looked good enough for pole position in third. Then it's Tech Brawl in fourth, just behind, and Cameron Dowd's not able to improve enough. He'll be starting from 5th place. But Tom, what a lap at a time where he so sorely needed it.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant in the end from the man at Team Shazoo to just right at the end put his critics to bed after what was a pretty poor sprint race. Shazoo have managed to get pole position through Tom, but it is all going to be about EVE, though, a team right at the back of the field. They have not even, I don't even think they've got 100 points in this championship. If they have, it's only just managed to creep over to 100 points. And they've got a man in second place. PLX and Lafitte are two drivers EVE are going to desperately want to hold on to, I think, going into F1 25. But I tell you what, great performance from them. What has been a bit of a shocker in the end, a shocker in final run from Tech to only be P3, but Justin is only 14th. That could be an absolute killer for BRT with Team Shazoo all in the mix. This could be potentially the race that lets Shazoo have one hand on the championship trophy once again. Is it going to be our first back-to-back winner in this WOR Legacy Division championship? That is the question. We're taking a short break as the drivers are going to get themselves ready, as the grid is going to be lined up, and of course we're going to get those collisions turned back on. Oh, this should be an absolute blinder of a British Grand Prix. Don't go away. Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome back to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. Thank you very much for being alongside us for what has been, I'm sure, a very intense British Grand Prix. We've had the one shot, we've had the sprint, we've had the main qualifying, and now we're going through to the main race. And would you believe Team Shazoo were on pole position via Tom, but EVE Tom, EVE PLX rather, alongside Tom on the front row for second place. That is a little bit of a mixed bag, to say the least, Kotskis, because that means that you've got a driver who's got nothing to lose, potentially could do a dive into one.
Yeah, and well, of course, those drivers that aren't necessarily involved tend to fight 10 times harder than everybody else, and so well, we could be in for an interesting race, as the order's it's not quite in sync as you would expect it to be. And, well, that it could just throw some unexpected results with, well, I mean, the championship leaders, of course, but it's Shazoo Tom on pole position. So not quite the man that you'd expect to be up there. And I don't think he quite would either.
Yeah, and obviously take a look at what we've got coming up then in terms of the drivers before we get in with the race. Both of the ET8 guys serving a qualifying ban. They're down in 19th and 20th. Tom, there he is on pole position. And then you've got EVE's PLX in second place. But, of course, Shazoo's Cameron Dowds is in the mix as well, which could be a big one. Gatkowski not doing a good qualifying, as well as BRT. They've got Tech Brule up there. But then Justin has had an absolute stinker. He's out of form personally at the moment. Could be a bit of a situation for BRT. Shazoo are really, really in good stead for this race. So let's get ready for what is going to be a very intense race ahead of us. We are about to get going very quickly. Kotskis, any early favourites for the win?
Well, I mean, I spoke about it in the intermission between the sprint and the quali. I think it's pretty obvious that Cameron Dowds is going to be pretty high up there. I think Tech Brule as well is going to be a driver in favour, but the top three, it's hard to look past because of the fact that there will be so much scrapping away. Are they going to be able to create a roadblock for those drivers behind? Maybe those in fourth and fifth, it being Tech Brule and Cameron Dowds. They're going to try and make their way up. I'd expect them to be at the top towards the end, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Should be an absolute blinder, to say the least. This is the British Grand Prix. We have 4 rounds of this championship to go. This will be the first of the 4. We are going to be in for, I'm sure, a race of what should be high attrition in terms of tyres, because, of course, it's a high-deg circuit. We're expecting mediums and hards for this race, but you never know. Someone may decide to be a little bit more brave in this one. So let's see what happens with the drivers on the grid. This British Grand Prix is about to get going. Let's go racing in Britain, and here comes Shazoo Tom, then tried to defend from the likes of EVE's PLX, but EVE's PLX could immediately go down the inside. He has nothing to lose, and he's certainly looking for it. Is the Mercedes, but in the end it doesn't look like he's going to go for it, or is he going to go for the dive? Oh, it's close indeed between the pair of them. He locks up going into the corner, and Tech may welcome himself into this battle. Is he going to get squeezed off from the Mercedes? He certainly will. The Red Bull of Allison trying to hold off as well in their own little scrap. Cameron Dowds in 6th place towards the back. Gatkowski and Ryderdahl in the row battle for 18th and 19th place. Initially out of these position changes so far though. Tech up 1 position, Allison down 1, Max von der Gies is up 1. Cameron Dowds once again doing exactly what he did in the sprint. Not had a good start, but he is battling to try and get that position back. Side by side with Max von der Gies is the Alpine Renault, and he's going to have the toe as well of Allison. May get one, may get the other as well. Is he going to go down the inside on this occasion? He will not. The Red Bull's been caught out though, and the Alpine is being welcomed into the battle. He's now from down 1 to up 1. Oh, it's close between the pair of them, but the move's done.
Yes, I mean, what a start that was in terms of just the pure racing action we had on offer. And, well, Cameron Dowds up to 4th. He can't use the mediums as an excuse this time as opposed to the softs, because everybody is on a set of the medium compounded tyre, and it's going to be side by side the 2 TF10 drivers as we head through to the final couple of corners of lap number 1. Van der Gies holding onto it ahead of Dirk, but Dirk diving late to the inside, and he's going to fight his teammate here for P6. He could open up the door for DTM Mustache as they head out onto the exit of the first lap. As Quartz goes wide, he drops positions. There's contact behind. Justin makes contact with, I believe it was GT10 Stefano, and he drops to the rear of the field. He's got front wing damage. And for BRT, that could be absolutely devastating. Tech Brule trying to hold it around the outside of Cameron Dowds as well, who's dived it to try and take P3. This could be a perfect start to the race and a perfect continuation of the championship for Shazoo. Cameron trying to go around the outside as they head now into the race end. from Tech Brawl. That is not where you want to make a send, and he does back out of it, which does mean that Dowds can head through, but he's thrown Brawl, and now he's thrown PLX on the exit. He's up to P2. It's a 1-2 for Shazoo.
Yeah, it is a 1-2 for Shazoo. It's exactly the best start that could have possibly happened for Team Shazoo. Everyone on the medium tyre, by the way, so we'll stick with the position changes in this particular race. But that is critical for Justin, who loses a massive chunk of his front wing. He's now down at the back and will need to have a pit stop to change that front wing. But at the moment, Team Shazoo 1-2 could be the one hand on the trophy that they have been searching for. Tech is trying his hardest to keep PLX under pressure, but PLX is holding his own. If anything, he's actually getting boxed in a little bit from the Team Shazoo drivers, which could welcome Tech back down the inside line, going through into Stowe, but the corner is very much not open for grabs, and they will go in formation, then going through the Vale chicane. What is for certain, though, is TF10 need to keep it nice and cool and nice and easy. They were getting close, battling with each other. They don't want to keep doing that one because there's been a couple occasions this season where they've collided with each other. PLX is looking really quick, by the way, for EVE. Could be a potential podium on the cards here. He just needs to manage his own race and work with the Shazoo drivers if he wants to try and take points out of the hands of the likes of BRT and TTM and TF10, would you believe, in their little scrap at the moment. EVE wanted to not be finishing at the foot of the table.
Yes, not what they would have wanted, and well, PLX at the moment demonstrating his pace as he's up there in P3, trying to fight away with the two Shazoo drivers who are in a great position where they can just hold on to those first two positions. They can just try and stay maybe side by side into a few of the corners where they could be attacked, just so they don't get attacked themselves. It's a great position for Shazoo to be in. It's the perfect position for Shazoo to be in. And well, in the meantime, it's current 88 driver fighting former 88 driver down in the lower echelons of the positions. P13 and P12 being scrapped over by Ryderdal and Agonized. And Ryderdal and Sergioli having a good start. The 88 drivers starting, of course, at the back of the field. They're up to 13th and 15th. And so they are trying to sight their way through the field. And they're doing pretty successfully so far, as well, exactly what I said would happen has happened. Tom and Cameron are going to go side by side through the final couple of corners of this race. And Tom, once again, is going to lead as we head on to lap 4, and PLX can do nothing in P3.
Yeah, and you know what? PLX will probably not try and fight too hard either. He's got nothing to lose, but at the same time, he'll want to try and earn as many points as he possibly can for his team. The best thing they could do is not be at the bottom of the field, and I tell you what, a third place finish will certainly help them in their championship run against GT10. At the moment, only scoring 2 points with that 14th place for Quartz, who of course might have some damage as well after that collision and going off of the circuit at the Vale chicane. However, Cameron Dowds is going to be a little bit obscured here, a little bit under a bit of pressure at the moment from the PLX man, with the EVE man rather. PLX looking really sharp. Is he going to have the traction on the outside? He won't on this occasion, so Cameron Dowds will hold on, but that was an opportunity, and that is Team Shazoo saying, ooh, actually we might be under a little bit of pressure here from this very quick Mercedes. Going through then Cop's corner, pushed around the corner from EVE's PLX, who's looking to put Cameron Dowds under pressure. Shazoo Tom will be doing everything he possibly can to help him out. Into none for Cameron Dowds. He tries to recover as much energy as he possibly can to go down this main straight. A little bit of dirty air effect going through Maggots, but coming out of Beckett's, that PLX is looking so strong. In fact, so strong, he might even go for the move, but is he going to get boxed in once again? He certainly is. Is it going to be a double overtake? No. Well managed once again. Team Shazoo have got that position sorted, but nearly crashing into his teammate Shazoo Tom, losing the rear, and in fact it's actually caught him off guard a little bit. I tell you what, they are working, and they are working together very well, but Tom is feeling that pressure from PLX.
Yes, at the moment, PLX putting him under intense pressure as he tries to force a way past the two Alpines, the two Shazoo drivers, and maybe looking to the inside of Cameron, not quite making that move, but keeping that pressure on and hoping for a mistake from the two in front. There's a fight in the background with Allison on the outside and Max van der Geest on the inside, but Allison just getting the exit. He's going to hold on to P5 as the two Shazoo drivers once again side by side. PLX can do nothing. There's yellow flags in the background as that is Quartz, who drops down the field after contact, I believe, as they headed down the straight. So a couple of elbows coming out early on. It's lap 5 of this race, and we've had a couple of incidents, both GT10 drivers. Of course, race winners last week. They're down at 18th and 19th.
Yeah, on board at the moment with PLX once again as he tries to keep the pressure up between the two Shazoo drivers. I tell you what, Team Shazoo have definitely got that sort of racecraft sorted between driver A and driver B to force Tom into a position where he's boxed in, but force PLX rather into a position where he's boxed in, but he is putting pressure on the front two, and as a result it may force a bit of an unforced error, force an error out of Tom and Cameron Dowds. But once again, on this occasion, no switching of position, no boxing in, happy to just hold station, and PLX happy to just oblige, as we've got a bit of a lock-up happening in the midfield. Might be a bit of an issue for Agonize as Ryderdal gets the move done up to P12, but that spin out earlier on from Quartz means that GT10 have now got Neil Poin against their name for this particular race, and that will shine a really big smile for the likes of EVE, who potentially might be on for a podium with PLX. But Tech could have something to say about that one. He's putting pressure on the Mercedes, and he's now just beginning his own little race now with the front three.
Yes, at the moment, Tech is trying to fight his way into that top three with PLX just ahead, not putting the two Shazoo drivers under enough pressure, or so he would feel, and now he's going to try to do that himself. There's further back, there is more fighting as now the two ET8 drivers up to 12th and 13th, although Agonize, he gave Ryderdal a good fight, and now he's giving Sergioli a good fight. Sergioli trying to head around the outside, not quite able to do it, and he's just going to sit in behind. But there are scraps all the way down the field, all the way down to even P17, so the last driver in this train, and I'm sure this will continue with 20 laps to go. I'm sure we won't stop shouting until lap 26 of 26.
Ooh. Yeah, Magnussen Beckett's has been an absolute blinder of a set of corners for PLX, actually. Gained a lot of time through those corners. I think that's just simply because Tom was so close to Cameron Dowds, he couldn't brake as later as he wanted to. PLX, though, not putting any pressure on the front two. In fact, going down to none is Tom, feeling no pressure at all from PLX as he now just recharges the batteries and then begins perhaps another little hunt in a few laps' time for the front positions. But Team Shazoo holding station and doing a really good job in first and second place. Cameron Dowds, not the best for his qualifying in this particular race every weekend, but I tell you what, his race pace has been absolutely blistering, to put it bluntly. A little mistake from EVE's PLX could put Tech under pressure. A little bit of a tap on the front as well, and the rear stepping out as a result. Tech now beginning his little push in the first sector, so much quicker than PLX, but he's just losing all that time in the second and third.
Yes, well, it's not quite the overspeed that he would have been trying to expect on the last lap, especially with how close he was to PLX ahead. So the top four looking to fight in this one. Allison trying to ward off the pressure from Max van der Geest. He's going to try and push his way forward now if he can make the V-carb go away, but the V-carb is not going to go away, and he's going to maybe dive to the inside, but maybe just trying to force a mistake out of Allison as they head through the sector number 2, and he's going to stay close, just like Tech Brawl, or Tech Brawl even, is going to stay close to PLX, and he's going to try to maybe make this move down the next straight. He'll have DRS at his advantage, but so will PLX, so that will be nullified, but it's down to who has the greatest straight line speed. And PLX actually trying to go for a move on Tom as they head up now, but not quite able to make that move, and they're going to stay in formation as they head on to the end of the lap. But Max van der Geest looking around the outside of Allison, not quite enough space for the V-carb to find his way through. He stays in P6.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out on Shazoo Tom, actually. There could be a slight murmuring in the background, maybe from a manager or two, saying that was a day late and $1 short from Shazoo Tom to defend down the outside, down the inside rather, of Cops. In fact, sorry, he's made a mistake actually, as through Stowe rather. He's made a mistake actually hitting the sausage curb, and that may welcome a little bit of a vulnerability going down this main straight. Is there going to be a move here from PLX, or is he just going to hold station? By the looks of things, willing to hold station on this occasion. But yeah, a little bit of a few questions starting to merge now. Maybe if Shazoo, is Tom, feeling that pressure? Is he being forced potentially into a few little mistakes? We saw a little mistake going through Stowe. We saw a little mistake, potentially a bit of a late braking or a late move maybe down the inside line, but nonetheless, we can certainly see that PLX is definitely putting pressure on the Shazoo boys at the moment. And I tell you what, great racing from the Project Versio driver. Him and as I said earlier on, and Lafitte are going to be drivers that they're definitely going to want to hold on to going into F125, but not the best Maggots and Beckett's, actually. A bit uncharacteristic from PLX, but no pressure once again from Tech on this particular occasion. Looking down the rest of the field at the moment, let's take a little trip down to P15 as Versio, that's PLX's teammate, has just made it into the positions that scores you points. 1 point for 15th place, is now up to that position, but 2 seconds back from the likes of Gatkowski. Means that point is being currently swapped out between 3 drivers in the likes of Project Versio's Dom, ET8, or rather that's actually FRT's agonised as ET8. Want to change your game attack, please, mate. And PGR's Andrea, please change your game attack as well, because you are TRT. 10th and 11th place, got a bit of a scrap happening between Radadal and Dan, as Dan gets into P10, just holding on to that position very nicely, going around the village corner.
Yes, I mean, we're starting to try and settle into the race now, and Shazoo is certainly trying to settle into the race in first and second as they stand. Agonize still trying to fight with EVE's Dom for P50, just holding on to that move. They have lost the DRS though, and so the advantage will go to Dom, but they will not be fighting any further up. They're going to stay in that position, and so we could be seeing our first move here into Cop's corner. Down the inside goes Kay Gutowski on Fede. Little bit of contact. I'm sure that will be discussed in the stewards room, knowing some of the managers for these world teams. But good hard racing. Of course, off the circuit went Fede, but he's now going to try and fight back with that DRS as they head down the straight. They could be under threat from losing that DRS on the next few laps, but as it stands, they're just going to stay as they are. And Ryderdal up into the top 10 now, making his way past FRT down with the DRS. And this is exactly why we watch World, where all of these drivers, they're going to be... It's going to be so close together. Even if you do have a qualifying ban, even if you do start from the rear of the field, there is still an opportunity to fight forward. And, well, the 2 ETA currently exercising those opportunities. And P10 and P12 so far, they've halved that disadvantage that they would have had. And they're now right in with you. I would say, at least, he's the top battle.
Yeah, but Ryderdal, of course, is just breaching about 3/4 of a second, which would put him under a little bit of pressure if he doesn't have DRS. So ideally, he could get as close as he possibly can to Francesco Largo. He's had a bit of a stinker of a qualifier, which led him down to P9. But keeping an eye out on Tech Brule and the likes of EVE's PLX at the moment, actually, to be honest with you, because EVE's PLX is just sort of finding his mojo again, I think. He's just comfortable. Is the right words for it, against Team Shazoo, to not put them under too much pressure at the moment in this part of the race. Perhaps an undercut is maybe what he's considering, and what is the longest pit stop in the calendar is the British Grand Prix, because of course it's a slow pit lane, a long pit lane, and you take your time around there as well, so minimise how much time you lose, folks. Going down then the main straight, PLX looking fairly sharp, actually. Is he going to go for the move on this occasion? No, he's not using any of his energy to put any pressure at the moment on the Team Shazoo drivers, so perhaps a changing tactic at the moment, as we've got Versio Tom getting double overtaken from agonised Andrea. In fact, Andrea getting the double on both of them, actually, going back up now to the final point scoring position of P15. Lap 11 of 26, 15 laps to go, and to be honest with you, it's who blinks first now.
Yes, and well, that is generally what happens in this sort of thing, where it is so close that they're just going to try and minimise mistakes, but at the same time trying to force the mistakes out of everybody else. And well, it'll be interesting to see when everybody comes back into the pits and dives in for a set of the hards, as Francesco Largo having a wobble on the exit of the first chicane, and TTM Mustache finding his way through, and up to P8 goes the TTM driver. The 2 TTMs not doing too badly. I mean, I thought they were going to be in and around where the TF10 drivers were pace-wise, and that appears to be what's happening so far with, well, TF10 actually in a TTM sandwich, 5th and 8th for Allison and Mustache respectively, and then Max van der Geest, and then Dirt in P6 and P7. I think they're pretty comfortable in those positions. If there's any mistakes further up, then they're going to try and do something to get up there. But PLX doing such a good job at the moment to try to pressure Shazoo. I think even at this point, the Tech Brawler has actually decided to not pressure him that hard, to try and make PLX use his tyres up and use all of his ERS, trying to get past the 2 Alpines of Shazoo, and then Tech Brawler is going to try and attack towards the end of this stint, and well, almost bump drafting him there through the final couple of corners. He's going to get very close to the back of the EVE man now. And I think it's just a matter of if, or of when, not if, Techroll tries to make his way past.
I wonder what the flavour profile is for a TTM sandwich, Kotskis. You've got 5th and 8th place making the middle of a TF10 double layer, so that would be, I'm sure, a very consistent flavour profile. One thing is for certain is that the flavour profile of a lime is going to be a bit sour, and it could be souring EVE's opportunity for their first race podium in the end, because of course EVE are the only team this season without a podium to their name, so this is a big one here. Every team getting a podium this season would be a lovely record to have in this World Online Racing's Legacy Division season, because it has been one of those seasons where sort of anything can happen, and it usually does, and PLX definitely finding his form at the moment for EVE to just really be in contention alongside Team Shazoo, and if anything crops up, he'll be very happy to take the position. And I tell you what, considering where EVE are in the championship, it's a very mature drive from the Mercedes man, but I have to tell you what, it's a maturer drive from Team Shazoo, because they have been managing this race excellently. The entire race pace completely dictated by the Scottish outfit. We'll see if PLX is going to put any challenge here. It is getting closer, but once again, the straight is just a little bit too short for any kind of move here. He is getting a little bit side by side with Tom on this occasion. There is a little sense of a vulnerability with Tom in this particular race. A bit of a bump up the bum a little bit from PLX, but nothing too extraordinary as they start the 13th lap of this race, and we're halfway there.
Yeah, we've got one of the drivers into the pits. Agonizers come in to make a switch off of the medium compound of tyre. But yeah, if I was Shazoo here, I would consider maybe swapping Cameron and Tom, because Cameron just looks so much more set at the top of that field, and it is interesting to see that they have decided to keep Cameron out on top, and just let's PLX try to soak up that pressure as we do head past the halfway mark of this race now. But he's done pretty well to soak up that pressure from the EVE man, and well, despite the fact that PLX looked to make that overtake on that last lap, he didn't quite make it stick. By the way, I've got an answer for your DTM sandwich question. It's a baguette filled with brie. So not casting any aspersions over the nationality of TTM at all. But,
I like a baguette filled with brie. I'll take that. Thanks for the answer on that one. But I just wanted to bring up actually a little mistake has just occurred with Team Shazoo. Cameron took Luffield a little bit too short and caught Tom off guard. So there's been a slight bump up the bump from Tom up to Cameron Downs, which has allowed PLX to potentially put a little bit of pressure on the front two, and he certainly sensed there's definitely again that vulnerability involving Tom. Cameron has really just found his stride, but every so often the slightest little bit of pressure from PLX and Tom, as you can see there, the car just snapping every so often. There is a slight vulnerability in the back of that Alpine Renault, and that could be something that PLX could bite down on if he wanted to.
He could, and well, I think that it's these two at the top that he's going to have to try and get past Tom, I think, is the case. As well, we've got everybody else pretty much in that mid-pack coming into the pits. Francesco Largo, Ryderdal, Dan, Fede, and Dom all joining Agonize, heading into the pit lane. One of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. Or I say longest in terms of time, because they do have to go just a measly 37 miles an hour through that pit straight. I believe that might be 50 kilometers, but I'm not 100% sure about that conversion. Looking at the top of this field, and Techroll is closer than ever to PLX. Not going to make that move just yet, but he's shaping it up, and I'm sure he's going to try and send it at least as they head finally down to the DRS straight. He's trying to keep that pressure on. PLX lost a little bit of time off of the back of Shazoo's Tom, and this is the opportunity now for Techroll to get past PLX. Wow. He no longer serves a purpose He no longer serves a purpose for Techroll, but an exit of champions at a perfect time for PLX means that he's going to hold on to that P3. Are we going to see pits this lap? We are. Shazoo's Tom comes in, PLX does as well, so does Techroll. So we've got a few drivers coming into the pits from this top back. Cameron Dowd, the main one who's going to stay out. Allison in what will be P2, and Max van der Gies, both TF10s going even longer, and TMs as well. So they're still staying in that sandwich. Everybody else now has come into the pits. Everybody else in the chasing pack now has come into the pits even. And, well, it's just now Dowd, Allison, Max van der Geest, Dirk and Mustard who are going to try and attempt the overcut.
Keeping an eye on Ryder Dahl, see how many undercuts are going to happen here. He pitted one lap earlier alongside a group involving Francesco Largo and FRT. Dan Agonai setting the fastest lap of the race, then going through into turn one. We'll see where Ryder Dahl's going to come out. He's coming out in front of Tech. He's certainly going to come out in front of Tech. That could pose a bit of a challenge for those that are not pitting just as of yet. But Ryder Dahl is behind PLX and Tom. So that is the question that I'm posing here. Is Cameron Dowd potentially in a spot of bother when the pit stops are all completed? PLX knows that that's an opportunity. Is he going to go for the move against Tom? He's not. Tom is vulnerable here, and Tom has probably been the most vulnerable out of the two Shizou drivers as well here. This could be an opportunity for PLX to potentially lead this race here. This is critical, and the Mercedes outfit and no doubt the Maltese team are certainly going to be telling PLX it's hammer time, as he says in that Mercedes. Going through then into Cobbs, want to keep it nice and cool, nice and easy. Will PLX not put too much stress on the tyres on this occasion? But this is where it's critical. He's been good round here. Through Maggots, through Beckett's, Cameron Dowd's into the pit lane. Here they come then. The move is critical. 10-second time penalty for a severe collision with Max von der Geest for TTM's Allison critically. And there's the move. PLX now leads this race against Shizou's Tom. Here comes then Ryder Dahl as well in this mix as they go side by side. The Alpine will want to stay at least alongside. Oh, a little collision involving the Ryder Dahl. He'll have to hold on to the position. This is critical now. Where is PLX going to come out versus the likes of Cameron Dowd? Cameron Dowd is still in the pit lane. He's just leaving as of now, but this could be critical. Are Project Aversio Racing going to hear the words that they've been desperate for so long in this championship? They are now in a prospective lead of this race so far, but he has to manage the competition of so many fast drivers. Cameron Dowd has come out behind Tech Brule.
Yeah, and arguably you'd want to be in P2 in this position, and at the moment PLX in P1, Tom in P2, and he's got to hold the candle for Shizou as they try to fight with EVE. But, well, Cameron Dowd's coming out in P8. He's at a disadvantage, but he has the freshest set of soft compound tyres, which is an advantage, especially on that set of tyres. And, well, they're going to try to continue to fight forward. Of course he is, as they head through the next few corners. They will head afterwards onto lap 17, and he's going to get those tyres fired up, trying to close up. Quartz with a 3-second time penalty up at the top of the field. He's currently P3. That won't last very long as both Dirt and Mustache come into the pits. Don't forget as well that Allison now has that 10-second penalty for contact with Max van der Geest as they head into the pit entry, and it looks to have actually affected van der Geest as there's side-by-side action here. PLX just trying to hold on to the outside line. Maybe trying to hold on too hard as there's contact between himself and Ryder Dahl, which drops Ryder Dahl behind Tech Brule. And now Ryder Dahl could even be overtaken by Cameron Dowd. He's going to have to go the long way round. Ryder Dahl's going to force him the longer way round, but he's going to make that move stick all the way around the outside for Cameron Dowd, but he makes it stick. And Shizou's Tom now into the lead of this race, ignoring Quartz in P1. It's Tom who holds this provisional race lead. It's PLX who's going to try to fight this one back on exit as Allison and Lego try to fight. And Lego going down the field, possibly traction issues on the exit. And small mistake drops him all the way down to P16.
Yeah, PLX is just keeping that pressure, though, at the moment on the likes of Tom. Remember, Tom, as I said, has probably been the most vulnerable out of the two Shizou drivers. I'm really surprised Shizou didn't actually pick Cameron first, because that would have probably been the better outcome. But they do believe Tom has got the tenacity to hold on, but PLX has got, well, Tom has got no protection whatsoever from his teammate now, so it's all going to be about pure pace. PLX left that door very much wide open, so he's happy to just work with the likes of Tom. But in this situation, he's being held up considerably, especially through Maggots and Beckett, so much faster in comparison to the Alpine, who is certainly feeling the pressure from that Mercedes. Here he comes then with the DRS wide open. I don't think there's going to be much in the way of overtake being used, but he might have to just use a little bit to make sure the move is done, as he now retakes P2 out of the hands of the Scottish outfit. Quartz is staying out, by the way. He's losing around about a second a lap as it stands on those old medium tyres. He does have to pit, bear in mind, because of course those is 17 lap versus 18. Yeah, he hasn't pitted yet, so Quartz still needs to make a pit stop in this one, so he's going for the ultra long race strategy, and I'm not really sure as to why. We've lost Max von der Geest. It looks like he's retired in the pit lane, so that's the end of the Team TF10 drivers race, as his teammate is down in P10 at the moment, but it looks like to me we're going to be in a little bit of a transition phase where Tom and PLX are perhaps going to work with each other, but Cameron Dowds knows he needs to get this done as quick as he possibly can, and look at Tom helping his teammate out and giving the toe. He's going to have to go around the outside though of this corner, and this will be one hell of a move, but he might get, would you believe, boxed in by his own teammate, and as a result he might not be able to get the power down, and Tech is now getting a toe from his teammate as a result. They're trying to box him in, give him a toe, box him in. Tech can't move anywhere. It's absolutely fantastic racecraft from Team Shazoo. This move is surely going to be done and dusted, and once again the championship leaders showing why they're there. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. The Team Shazoo drivers demonstrating why you need two teammates in a battle. That is oh so crucial for your championship charge. Don't forget, the two teams that are fighting with them, BRT, Tech Brawl in 5th, Justin in 18th, and ET8 both having qualifying bans. Ryderdal is back into this battle, so it's so crucial that they get the maximum points out of this weekend they can, and it wasn't a bad start for Dowds, who took victory in that sprint, and he's going to now try to take victory in this race. It's Tom and Cameron right behind PLX, who's doing so well to hold on to the lead of this one alone, with his teammate all the way down in P17. Tech Brawl as well in a similar situation, but he's going to care more about the championship. EVE down in 10th place with 116 points. They don't care about the championship. PLX, he's just racing for pride, and he actually, I think, if he's able to hold on to this lead, is going to get DRS off of Quartz within the next DRS straight. So this could be so important for PLX if he can hold on to this one, as that's Allison going down the inside of Ryderdal. He won't care about that 10-second penalty as he gets a purple first sector and gets his way past Ryderdal into P6. As well, he will get DRS, will PLX, down at the next straight on Quartz, and he could try and use the GT10 driver as a bit of a buffer depending on when he can get past. This is advantage at the moment, Shazoo, but PLX doing such a good job to hold on to this one as Kay Getkowski disconnects, and he will drop down the field. Now you would imagine PLX is 9/10 behind Quartz, and he's going to definitely get that DRS on the straight. So the Shazoo team will not be able to get past him soon. But when Quartz does end up trying to dive into the pits, it is definitely advantage Shazoo.
Well, the thing is with Team Shazoo here, it's getting now, he's going to force the Haas around. As the Haas goes straight to the pit lane, he is. A little bit of blocking from the Haas driver there, and actually it's invited potentially Tom into the mix. He's off the back of PLX at the moment. It's fairly critical for Team Shazoo here that they get both of their drivers in front of PLX. If the PLX splits them, then they're going to leave the driver in front vulnerable from attacks. So if this move is going to be done, they've got to do it together for it to work. And tell you what, when it comes to working together as a team, Shazoo have been probably the best team this race so far. With 6 laps to go, this is going to be critical to say the least. Now, there's fresh soft tyres on for Quartz. I don't know why he's decided to go as late as he possibly could. I assume he's trying to wait for a potential safety car, but in all fairness, everyone's kept it as cool and as nice and tidy as they can, so the racecraft has actually been fairly decent in this race. There's been a few incidents that no doubt will get investigated, but overall not a bad performance. So Cameron Dowds is now behind, obviously, Shazoo Tom, but Tom is going to want to try and get the move done quickly on PLX. It will be a question of when do we do it, and we've got to do it together. If they split, PLX will just happily take the position straight back out of the hands of whoever's going to be in front, which in this doubt, no doubt, is going to be Shazoo's Tom. Oh, a little bit of a mistake though, going from Tom. He's lost a little bit of time through understeer. Tech is also willing to potentially split these two Shazoo drivers up. There goes one. Is the other going to get the move done? PLX will try his hardest to get in there. Tech is also trying to get in there as well. Shazoo have done exactly what they have needed to do, and PLX knows it, so he's trying to go side by side onto the sausage curb. He will go, but it's exactly what Team Shazoo have needed to do, they have done. PLX will want to get this one move done and back as quickly as he possibly can and try and split these two Shazoo drivers, otherwise it's right back to square one for the Project Aversio driver.
Yes, and well, he's got to not lose his head here. He's got to try and make his way past in the cleanest way possible. Well, there's a send down the from Dirk at the rear of this battle. By the way, I've received information that Allison's penalty is removable. So, of course, he won't care about that 10-second as Kay Getkowski leaves the session once again. Disappointing for him. PLX around the outside. Can he get through? On camera, Dowds, he's confirmed the position, but a 5/10 gap to Tom might be a little bit too much with the other Shazoo driver right on his rear. Tech Brawl will have to try and pressure, but Cameron Dowd is now going to try and go around the outside. We've seen this move be successful before. We've equally seen it unsuccessful.
Brilliant.
And Dowd's just about keeping it on the circuit. This racecraft is incredible. And he's around the outside and up, back into P2.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from the Flying Scotsman around the outside, showing that you can go too wide through cops without colliding. DRS available for both of the drivers. Here now Cameron Dowd will have a reduced DRS rate, no doubt. EV's PLX will also have the same. He's trying to catch them both out, but once again, a little bit of a day late and dollar short for the likes of Cameron Dowd to defend this one. They are defending really hard, to say the least. The Team Shazoo, a little bit of a half-hearted attempt from PLX on this occasion. Towards the back, Allison is still defending, still battling rather with the likes of Tech. This is for P4, by the way. If they keep battling too hard, they'll lose ground to the front three. Allison gets the move done. He's now up to P4. Remember, he's got that time penalty to his name. If it is removable, obviously he will maintain the position, but as it stands so far, he will fall down the standings. Dirk gets a little bit of a dive on around the outside of the corner. He will now go. Will he get the traction? He certainly will. And Tech is losing positions left, right and centre. He is not comfortable at the moment. 4 laps to go in this race. BRT are now down to 7th place with their other driver down in 18th. Goes for the late breaker, going into Luffield. But I tell you what, it's going to be a bold call if he can hold on to the position. Ryder Dahl hasn't got the traction. Fair play. Great defence from Tech.
Yes, at the moment, Tech just trying to hold on to that P6, but the defence that he's done, he could have done that so much earlier on. The likes of Dirk dropped down from P4 to P6, and now he's got to try and fight his way back up with Ryder Dahl, who will be right on his rear as now tyre wear is going to start to come into effect. 6 laps for Dowd and Allison, 7 laps for Tom and PLX, and 5 for Dirk. So he's going to have that slight grip advantage that will potentially get better as they head down to the final couple of corners. Cameron Dowd retakes P1. Dirk gets past Allison for P4, and they're going to continue to scrap away. Can Allison find a gap around the outside? No, the answer is, well, at the moment, Dowd, big lock up into the final braking zone of the lap, but he's been able to hold on to this lead, and now with Tom acting as the buffer, this could be a huge moment. PLX needs the move done on Tom as soon as he can if he wants any sort of chance to this race win. As well, we've seen these two Shazoo drivers work together perfectly so far this race. They've barely put a foot wrong ever since the sprint race ended. And well, Cameron Dowd, it extends even further because he barely put a foot wrong in the sprint as well. DRS open for Tom and for PLX, and it's not going to be close enough for the Mercedes drivers. It looks as though Tom has the greater straight line speed, so PLX, he's going to have to do some mastery here to try and get back past.
The problem is that he's got Dirk behind, and he pitted later than everyone else, so he's on a fresher set of soft tyres, which is so critical around a high deck circuit like this one. Those tyres are going to be significantly better than those that are on 7 or 8 lap old tyres. So Dirk is a bit of a dark horse in this one. I think Luke mentioned it in the chat earlier on that he's in a good position. He absolutely is at the moment, because he could actually put pressure, and PLX could be actually down in the depths of 4th place. He hasn't been anywhere near that throughout this race, so if he does end up finishing outside of the top 3, he won't deserve it, because he's been absolutely brilliant, to put it bluntly, has PLX, and I think he is well deserved of a personal driver of the day rating for certain as PLX. But at the moment, Shazoo have just been managing the race so well from start to finish. We've got 2 and a bit laps to go in this race. Dirk will now recharge the battery and get going for what will be a last-minute charge. PLX will be very much aware that maybe the battle is not in front, maybe the battle is behind, and he's going to have to consider that his options in this one here. It's been a mature drive from PLX, but where is he going to look is going to be the question. Oh, it's a later! Oh, he's hit the wall! He's contacted, he's lost a front wing end plate, I think, as Dirk, he has. He's lost a front wing end plate on the left-hand side as Dirk in that collision with the back of PLX. And to be honest with you, caught a little bit off guard from drivers that are on older tyres. And that is a testament to just how much more grip Dirk has had. He's been caught out, and that might just be any chance of a podium completely gone.
Yes, not what Dirk would have wanted, and the advantage that he had has now been nullified quite significantly, because that front wing end plate is going to cost him, in relation to those top drivers in the field. Of course, they have been the quickest so far this weekend. It's going to cost him a lot of time, and now Allison right behind is going to be rubbing his hands together, ready to make that move up into P4 and try to challenge for maybe a late TTM charge to the podium. It's not going to be a TTM charge to the podium that is doubled with Mustache down in P7. He made contact with, I believe it was Ryderdal on that previous lap. And so they dropped back to 8/10 behind, but the two ETA drivers swapping. Allison staying in P5 for now as Dirk's disadvantage doesn't appear to be too much, but it's around the outside maybe for Allison. Dirk just cutting off that opportunity. It was a prime overtaking spot into there, but it's easy to defend, and Dirk has done exactly that. We head onto the penultimate lap of this race now, and all these positions yet to be decided, but one that you can almost be certain about is that Cameron Dowd is going to head home for that victory. But I think everybody at home is going to be cheering on PLX. Can he take Aversio's first podium, or is he going to fall at the final hurdle? Dirk will have DRS, and he's certainly looking racy behind.
And what will be a record in WOR Legacy Division, every team that's ever competed in this championship with a podium to their name. PLX is certainly getting in the wing mirrors of Tom, trying to put him off. He knows he's been able to do it throughout this entire race. Tom has been keen to make mistakes whenever PLX puts any kind of pressure on the front. The gap now around about 6/10 between Tom and Cameron Dowd. It's typically the gap that you need if you want to be up the backside of the person in front after this main straight. So they are holding stations at the moment, our Team Shizou. But the question is PLX going to look for the move potentially on Tom to then look for Cameron Dowd? Is he going to look for the double, or is he just going to be settled with the likes of P3, knowing that his nearest competitor behind him, Dirk, has now got that wing damage of no fault of PLX's, in my opinion. But of course, we'll let the stewards make that decision. Then going into Stowe, and that corner is pretty much done, sealed and delivered. It is going to be all the way down to the final part of this race. Dirk is holding on for dear life for P4 at the moment with that wing damage. This is where it's going to be so critical very quickly here, Kotskis, before we get onto this final lap then. Cameron Dowd, surely the favourite.
Yes, I mean, he's got to be the favourite. He's got Tom there as a buffer, and, well, I don't think PLX is going to be able to be close enough to Tom, and certainly not to Cameron Dowd, to try to take that position away, and they are going to try. We've got 2 more DRS zones to go, and PLX heading into the first one now. By the way, Tech Grill, 3-second time penalty for extending track limits, and so he will shoot down the field, and they will desperately be searching through all of the logs and all of his live stream, just to try and find any sort of advantage and try and hold on to that P5, which could be a good result for the team. But they've only got 1 more DRS zone to go, and Dowd and Tom are looking comfortable. Yeah, they're looking very comfortable then.
Oh, the Team Shizou drivers, they've been looking fairly comfortable, really, ever since Cameron Dowd's made his rise up the standards. It's certainly likely going to be a driver of the day performance in terms of the game, purely because of the amount of positions that he's going to get into this position. But the Flying Scotsman has been absolutely brilliant from start to finish. Will he hand the position back over to Tom? It looks like he's certainly doing so. No, they've actually been given the full rein to actually get into this race here. PLX looking like he's just going to have to consolidate P3, but it's a great effort nonetheless from the Project Aversio driver, definitely getting in the wing mirrors, but no overtake available because it has been a complete dominance from the championship leaders. Have got one hand on the trophy as Cameron Dowd wins the race from Tom. EVE's PLX getting P3 is an amazing performance for Project Aversio. Every single team in this championship has got a podium to their name. Dirk finishes in 4th from Sergio and Mustache and Ryderdal. A great effort from the team ET8, who have served a qualifying ban for both of their drivers to finish 5th and 7th. Tech finishes only in 8th. His teammate down in 18th. That is a massive blow for the Bunga Racing team in their championship hunt. I tell you what, it couldn't have got worse for those searching for the championship. The championship leaders and those that won it last year are in a major, major step towards winning their 2nd title. Brilliant.
And who before the race mentioned about Shizou Tom and him not being able to hold a candle, eh?
Well, I've got to give him credit, to be fair. The sprint race didn't work in his favour, but you know what? He managed that race so well, didn't he, in the end? And despite the little mistakes, a little bit of pressure, looked a little bit sketchy at times. In the end, he's standing alongside this man, Cameron Dowd, who gets an absolute belter of a race as well. And the Scottish team outfit are going to just be so happy to hear that they're going to have one hand surely on that trophy now going into the next race. We'll go about all the details for the next 3 weeks of racing before we wrap up this particular championship. But nonetheless, what a performance from EVE, and to get their first podium of the season. Every single team now with a podium. That is just such a delightful thing to hear, isn't it, in a championship like this, to see all of the teams all in there. Let's see if we can take a quick look at those final standings, unless we're going to stick with a black screen. That might be what we get, unfortunately, with this particular game, which would be unfortunate. But nonetheless, it is Team Shizou from EVE, which is just such a magnificent outfit. TF10 finishing with Dirk in 4th place, of course, a DNF as well. And then, looking towards that sort of midfield, where were the CPI in the end? They sort of fell off a little bit, didn't they? So that's a bit unfortunate. Let's take a quick look then at the calendar, because of course we're not going to get those final standings with the typical Codemasters glitch. It has been one hell of a season, hasn't it? We started back on September 3rd with the Portuguese qualifiers before we did September 17's Monaco Grand Prix. We've flown through this calendar. We are now done when it comes to sprint races. There'll be no more sprint races this season, so it is now going to be the standard protocol all the way to the end of this season. Austrian Grand Prix rather, next week. And then we take a trip to Monza before we finish at their Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. We are now going to take a bit of a breather. Kotskis, before we wrap it up here, your final thoughts on what has been a very intense race and what has been definitely a race that's definitely going to fall into Shizou's hands now.
Well, I mean, you've just mentioned it. I was just going to come out there with the bold call and just say Shizou have won the championship. I can't see any way of BRT or ET8 catching them up unless there's qualifying bans for the rest of the season, essentially, for Team Shizou. So I think congratulations to them on their title, and now it's only waiting for confirmation of that result. But, I mean, unfortunate for Kovsky, who was victim of another issue for disconnects for CPI. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it does make the championship closer with TTM Mustache and the other TTM driver as well, holding on to those points positions. Allison dropping down the field, of course, with that 10-second time penalty, but he feels as though he can get that removed. That makes the battle for P4, potentially P3 if BRT and ET8 don't have a great next couple of rounds, so much more interesting.
Well, that's it then. We are now, as I said, going to take just a brief break as we just reconcile our thoughts, and obviously we'll be back next week on April 8th for the Austrian Grand Prix. From myself, Jota, and Kotskis, and the rest of the team here at WOR Legacy, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.